where is Ace Bailey going to land? Talked about this a little bit with John Roser yesterday. After that, Ace Bailey did meet with the media in New York City to talk about his unusual path to this night. For those who are unfamiliar, Ace Bailey is a five-star recruit, McDonald's All-American, all of that stuff, one-and-done wing who played his only season of college basketball at Rutgers. This time last year, most people had him projected as a consensus top 3 pick in the NBA draft. Really, about a month ago, most people had him projected as a consensus top 3 pick in this 2025 NBA draft. Most mock drafts had him going to Philadelphia at number 3. For reasons that aren't completely clear, he has declined to work out for any NBA franchise. He is the only American college player who did not do a single team workout. He was extended invitations to go to Philadelphia, meet with them, work out. He initially accepted it, but then canceled at the last minute, never made that trip. He was extended an invitation to go to Utah, reportedly did not accept that invitation. He was reportedly extended an invitation to go to Charlotte, reportedly declined that invitation. And so he comes here. I say here, I'm in Stamford, Connecticut, but he comes about 45 minutes away to New York City and is the only American college player who did not do a single team workout. Obviously, he was asked about this yesterday when he was required to meet with the media, and it was one of the most bizarre media sessions you could ever see the day before an NBA draft. Bennett, I don't think this was like big headline news anywhere, but did you happen to stumble into...
No, we were driving back yesterday. I didn't see it. What'd he say?
So, again, this is a young man who was projected to go in the top 3 of everybody's mock draft, then declined invitations to work out for anybody, and is now expected to slide outside of the top 3 unless somebody is willing to select him sight unseen. But that's what it will require. In the betting markets, if that's what you're interested in, he's now expected to go 6th to the Washington Wizards. And there's some theory that this is all by design, that he knows Washington will take him at 6 if he falls to 6, and he'd be more interested in falling to 6 and playing in Washington to start his NBA career than he would be going 3rd to Philadelphia or 4th to Charlotte, because in theory, they think that there's more playing time, better opportunities available initially than there would be in these other places. That's fine, whatever. I'll explain why I don't buy that completely in a second. But these are all the types of things that are swirling around. So when he sits down with the media yesterday, they want to ask him about it. And regardless of the question, where it came from or the path that it took to him, his answer to everything was more or less, I'm only focused on the things I can control. I'm only focused on the basketball stuff. Hey, Ace Bailey, why did you schedule a workout with Philadelphia and then cancel it at the last minute? I'm only focused on the things I can control. I'm only focused on the basketball stuff. Hey, Ace Bailey, is it true that you would rather go 6th to Washington than 3rd to Philadelphia? I'm only focused on the basketball stuff. I'm only focused on the things I can control. This went on for several minutes. Question after question, answer similar to that every single time. It was embarrassing. And I don't know if it's the type of thing that will just make a franchise who was willing to take him not take him, but it clearly isn't an encouraging sign if you already have a reputation of being immature. The point I made on CBS Sports HQ last night was you can maybe chalk some of this stuff up to he's just a teenager, and so he sounds like a teenager. Mm-hmm. But Carter Bryant is also a teenager. But when you listen to him talk, he's impressive. Cooper Flagg's a teenager. When you listen to him talk, he's impressive. You ask him questions, he explains his answers. VJ Edgecombe is also a teenager. He's impressive. You listen to him talk, he sounds like a sensible, smart, bright young man. And yet Ace Bailey just kept going back to these ridiculous statements to address any question, and it just plays into the narrative that exists right now that is sort of illustrates that the entire pre-draft process has been mishandled by him and his representation, and it is the type of thing that could quite literally cost him millions of dollars. Maybe not over the course of his career, but certainly initially. NBA rookies that are drafted in the first round, they are on a rookie scale. You don't really negotiate your own contract. You're slotted into a certain pay scale. And the difference between going, say, third, which is where he was expected to go, say, a month ago, and sixth, which is where he's expected to go tonight, the difference in that over the first 2 years of your contract is like $6 million. It's not nothing. Now, I've read reporting that suggests he believes he can make that back over the life of his career. He can make that back on his second contract, with the theory being that you go to a place like Washington where you can have more playing time and opportunities initially than you would at a place like, say, Philadelphia, where they've got more of a veteran roster, and Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain. A lot of people need shots in Philadelphia. You might not get as many there as you would theoretically in Washington. If the idea, and this seems to be at least one thing that is suggested, if the idea is that you can get a bigger opportunity in Washington over the first few years of your career than you would in, say, Philadelphia or perhaps somewhere else, and therefore you'll produce more and be set up to get more in your second contract. I mean, I guess on some level that is true, but that really shows a gross misunderstanding of how front offices look at this stuff. Like Reed Sheppard barely played in Houston this season. Jalen Wells started a bunch of games in Memphis this season. Jalen Wells finished top 3 in Rookie of the Year voting. Reed Sheppard was nowhere close to that. But if you put both of them on the table right now and asked all 30 franchises which player would you rather have, I believe all 30 franchises would still say Reed Sheppard. It would have nothing to do about who produced more in their first year in the NBA, and probably not even in their second year in the NBA. And so I don't know why you think you need to go to Washington to get more shots up so that you can get paid in your second contract. But whatever, that's a question for his representation. And frankly, there are a lot of questions for his representation right now. Do you know this aspect of the story, Bennett? Because I detailed it in a mock draft at CBSSports.com. And if I'm being honest, I'm getting beat up a little bit on the internet over the past 24 hours for framing it the way I framed it. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about? Okay, so Ace Bailey is a 5-star prospect, has been aimed for this moment for many years. This is not like some out of nowhere, I can't believe he went from there to here, over the past year or 2 or 3. He was always supposed to be here, always supposed to be a top 10 pick in the first NBA draft he would be eligible for. So here we are. His agent is a man named Omar Cooper. It's Sharif Cooper's father, and he happens to be a man, like I said yesterday, not trying to be cute, but he happens to be a man who is an ex-convict and who is not a certified agent and has no other NBA clients right now. Kevin Armstrong had a story about this yesterday, the day before, at NJ.com, a New Jersey-based media outlet. And I'm just going to read you straight from that, because I more or less took the most interesting stuff straight from what I'm about to read you and put it in a mock draft, and some people have taken issue with it. I'd be interested to get your thoughts on it. Here's what Kevin Armstrong wrote in a story posted about Ace Bailey and this weird pre-draft process earlier this week. Omari Cooper was indicted for possessing a machine gun and black short-clip Uzi in 2003, a decade after being charged with attempted murder and possession with intent to distribute cocaine on or by school property. While weapons and murder charges were dismissed, he did serve 6 months in Mountain View State Prison for a cocaine conviction, according to court records and the Department of Corrections. So, that is the man who is handling Ace Bailey's pre-draft process. That is the man Ace Bailey has put his career in the hands of. I reported all of that, and that's a weird way to phrase it. I didn't report anything. Kevin Armstrong reported it. I just lifted the most interesting parts and then put it into a mock draft because I am of the opinion when your pre-draft process has been bizarre and has been questioned by everybody, it's a reasonable thing to highlight that the man theoretically in charge of every decision that's being made is someone who is not a certified agent, has no experience in any real way doing stuff like this, and yes, is also an ex-convict. Fair to highlight or over the line, Big Bet Bennett? What do you think?
I mean, I think it's fair to highlight, especially the point that you said that he doesn't have any other NBA clients or guys that are potential NBA clients. I mean, that stands out to me just as much, right? Like that's a bit of a red flag. Yes, I think it's fine to point all that out.
I thought so too. I'm 99% of the time, I've been doing this long enough, I know when I say something or write something what the response is going to be. Whether I'm going to agree with the response or not, I usually have a pretty good indication for what the response is going to be. I was a little surprised that there was a backlash to this because this is the story heading into the draft. Where is Ace Bailey going to go, and why hasn't he done most of the things that other prospects like him do every single year? That's the question. And when you are trying to answer that question, the first thing you get to is, well, who's advising him? It's this guy. Well, who is this guy? He's a non-certified agent. So not even like a real agent, like doesn't work for CAA, doesn't work for Clutch. Oh, no. Got his own place, but doesn't represent other NBA players. So he's never really done this. No. So it's reasonable to assume that he doesn't have a good grasp for what he's doing. Unless you ever had a good grasp for what you were doing the first time you ever did it, particularly something that's complicated, yeah, it's reasonable to assume he doesn't probably have a good grasp for what he's doing. What's his background then? Oh, buddy, did you hear about the Uzi charge, the murder charge? I mean, the attempted murder charge? Yes, again, in fairness, the weapons and murder charges were dismissed, but there was a point in his life where he was facing an attempted murder charge, and there is a point in his life where he did 6 months in prison. There is a moment in his life that made him an ex-con. All of this stuff is relevant. When you're trying to understand why a consensus top 5 prospect might not go in the top 5 because of some unusual decisions that have been made on his behalf, when you're trying to make sense of that, understanding who the person is who is behind these decisions is relevant information. Kevin Armstrong went and found it and reported it, and I don't see the issue with sharing it. None of this means that Ace Bailey can't go on to be a Hall of Fame scoring champion someday. It would have been silly to pass on Anthony Edwards once upon a time in a draft just because you thought he was, quote, immature and making some questionable decisions. But none of this is good. It might not be career altering, but everything leading up to tonight for Ace Bailey has been reasonably questioned and undeniably unusual. If you got any sort of heart, you hope it doesn't cost him in any sort of meaningful way. But I once was a teenager. I once made questionable decisions myself, but I hope that I would have been smart enough to not put, if I were lucky enough to have a career that could be potentially worth hundreds of millions of dollars, I would hope that I would have been smart enough once upon a time to not put it in the hands of somebody like this and perhaps put it in the hands of somebody who's got a little bit more experience of handling situations like these.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m.